We all want love, but most of us don't want to date to get it. Because let's be honest, dating kind of sucks. But maybe it doesn't have to if we actually know what we're doing. Hi, I'm Kira Sabin, and this is Reinventing Dating, a smart and sweary podcast for all singles to learn the mindsets and skills to date with intention and confidence. Join me weekly as I break down the science and psychology behind what's working in our dating culture and what isn't. Every week, I bring a new topic, trend, skill, or mindset that can help us get out of our own way to learn how to date for relationships that we actually want. Because love isn't broken, but dating kinda is. But I'm reinventing it. Let's do this. Well, hello there, sugar pantses, and welcome to Reinventing Dating. This is Kira. I've missed you guys. How are you doing? It is spring in Wisconsin, finally, after snow just last week. Ridiculous. But the sun is out. I can hear the kids at the school nearby playing. And it feels like there's a little hope in the world. Just today. Because shit's bad otherwise. Just want to say, you may not know this, I'm a fan of the TV show Top Chef. It's my favorite reality show. I'm a foodie. I've learned so much through the years, but I love that show. I was fucking pee your pants excited when I heard they were coming to Wisconsin. In fact, I had been tweeting at them for years, you guys should come to Wisconsin. So I doubt I really had anything to do with it, but I like to think in the back of my mind, maybe I did. Maybe somebody was like, maybe we should go to Wisconsin. Anyway, I knew that they would show up at our Saturday's farmers market, and I couldn't go. I had a client that day. I was really bummed, but I've been enjoying this season in Wisconsin. But you can bet my ass was shocked when a little over a week ago, I'm watching Top Chef, watching the previews for next week, and I see my sister, my own fucking blood sister, who does not watch Top Chef, has never seen Top Chef, by the way, in the preview for the next episode. I lose my shit. I am swearing. Danny actually videos me because I'm freaking the fuck out trying to call her. And she was able to tell me at that time that because of her job, she was asked to be on Top Chef, but had to sign an NDA right away. I will tell you, I had feelings. I'm really mad at you. And I know it doesn't even make sense. I know you had to sign something. But knowing that my own sister, and by the way, we're not 2 of 10, it's just the 2 of us, was on one of my favorite shows and couldn't even tell me. Ugh, heart-wrenching. However, this is what I will say. If you've ever wanted to come to Wisconsin, because actually, by the way, I've just created a personal medicine retreat. It's you and I spending 4 full days together, about 5 hours a day, and you will walk away knowing how the fuck to date. You will walk away knowing all of it. Everything. But if you don't know anything about Wisconsin, if you hear me talking about it, if you don't know much about Madison, I'm going to encourage you to watch the latest episode of Top Chef. It's about Frank Lloyd Wright, and you'll see my sister. And you'll probably actually hear her and go, oh, her and Kira kind of sound alike. But she's there. I'm so fucking proud of her. We're both from a town of 5,000. I mean, young me could never visualize even a day where my sister would be on a national reality show talking about Frank Lloyd Wright. But here we are, and I just could not be prouder of her. I actually cried when I saw it. I was so excited, and she did such a great job, and I shared it on Facebook. I was just fucking gobsmacked that she didn't tell me, but couldn't, and I get it. But definitely go watch the latest episode. You're going to get to see Madison. You get to see where I live. And actually next week's also in Madison. It's beautiful here. It really is, people. So if you've been actually thinking about wanting to work with me one-on-one, knowing you want to work on this, you don't want to do the virtual work. You don't want to sit on a computer with me. You want to do stuff in real time, reach out to me. I've got a full plan set up that I can send to you, and you can come hang out in Madison and eat really, really good dairy for 5 days and change your life. Have you guys listened to Rom-Com Rescue yet? Did you get to listen last week to our intro episode? And listen to how Danny and I met? Have you checked out any of the other episodes? I want to remind you, even if you are not a huge rom-com fan, this is a learning tool. Part of the reason that dating and relationships feel so stinking hard is most of us are experiential learners on some level. Even if you identify as an audio learner or a visual learner, we learn better when we can not only see something, but then learn how to apply it to our own situation. And one of the craziest things that I've learned in the how many ever freaking years that I've done this now is that so many people come to me thinking that their problem, where they're stuck in dating, is only them, only them. And then I have to kindly and gently remind them, oh, no, this is a thing. This is a thing with either an attachment style or self-worth or just in our dating culture. And it's not you. It's what it is, but you can work on it. And that's one of the coolest things about dating is if you feel like you're struggling with it, if you feel like you don't know what you're doing or you haven't dated in a while, you can learn how to do it better. You don't have to stay stuck. You don't have to stay in a dating rut. You can actually do this better. And why I started Rom-Com Rescue Podcast and originally ruining rom-coms is because I think that rom-coms and limited series, because we'll be adding those in somewhat sooner than later, are fantastic way to see real life situations and be able to understand the psychology behind it. Because that's what's going on. Is if you watch the rom-com and then you listen to the podcast episode, you will be able to see relationship dynamics that you may not have noticed before or understood before. So just try it. We have 3 movies out right now. We just launched Crazy Rich Asians this week, which is, I love it, one of my favorite rom-coms. Watch the movie, listen to it, tell me what you think. Are you learning things? I bet you are. There's no way that you won't. And when I talk about us being able to learn how to date better, us having control over the ability of choosing wiser, being able to walk away quicker, as a reminder, I am bringing Date Like You Mean It to a monthly, day-long virtual workshop. So one Saturday a month, the third Saturday of every month, I am teaching what I think is the best shit that I do. It's all research-based, it's all science-backed, and I don't know anything else out there like it. People who have done it, it's like, oh, this is what I was looking for. I haven't found it till right now. And I'm like, I know. Because it took me years and years and years to actually know what the fuck I was doing to create it. So the next workshop is next Saturday, April 20th. And right now I only have a couple of people signed up because I haven't been promoting this a lot yet. So if you come, you will have a ton of my attention. But here's a few things that we'll be talking about. We'll be talking about rejection resilience and how to build grit so you don't give up just because something doesn't go the way you were hoping right away. Because sometimes we do that. We're going to learn about emotional unavailability so you know how to spot it right away and walk away from it. You're going to learn dating timelines. What makes sense? How slow to go? What questions to ask? What boundaries to set? All of it. And I'm going to take you through the first 3-month walkthrough of what healthy dating can feel like, what makes sense, so you know what you're doing and you can date with intention and confidence to get in a relationship you actually fucking want, because what's the point otherwise? Check all of it out. reinventingdating.com. It's $99. If you can't make it this month, you can sign up for May. You can sign up for June. I think I even have July up there. But I want this to become our new base for how we date. So I'm going to keep running this. It's for women. It's for men. It's for all ages, however you identify, and you will learn shit and walk away with more knowledge. It's going to be fantastic. Go check it out, reinventingdating.com. Sign up and let's spend the day together. Let's hang out, guys. It'll be a small group, it'll be a lot of fun, and you will walk away just feeling better, lighter, and more excited about dating. All right, let's dive into the topic of today, which is sabotage. I love to say it with a French accent. It's ridiculous, but I'm bringing a little levity and fun to a pretty tough conversation. Let me give you a little backstory on where this comes from today. A while ago, I was working with a client one on one. We were talking and we just had a tough day. And we were talking about some past relationships. And a couple of different times, I'm like, okay, but you see what you did there. You made that choice and you actually sabotaged that situation. And she'd be like, "Oh, man, I didn't see it. I didn't see it." I'm like, "I know. It's hard to see it when we're in it because really all of our fear and our trauma and our attachment style and our thinking traps kind of serve as a filter in front of our eyes. They make it so we can't see things or people or situations as clearly as we should." And so I just kept referencing a couple of these and I'm like, "Yep, okay, that's where you did this again. Okay, yep, that." And she's like, "I need a list. I need a list of ways that I might sabotage myself that I can revert back to make sure I'm not." And I'm like, "Okay, well, let me look into it." So the first thing I do, because this is what I do, is I look for a resource. I consider myself like a healthy dating educator at this point, and part of being an educator is finding research and resources and references. I looked and looked and I didn't find anything that I thought was particularly good for relationships and dating for that matter. So the second thing I do is when I don't find a resources, I create it. And so I did. And that's what today's episode is about. It is about sabotage. It is about actions and mindsets that we can notice that we're doing that may be creating the outcome that we don't want, which is if we are looking for a loving primary relationship, the goal is to have it move forward in the best ways possible, to get to love, to get to long term. And when we sabotage ourselves, we may push people away. We may hold on too tightly. We see things once again through these filters that make us believe they're truths and they're not. So dig in. And guys, guess what? I got a free PDF for you. I'll tell you at the end. So if you want this list, a downloadable printable that you can either keep on your computer or your phone or download as a piece of paper like it's 1989, let's do it. So, what exactly is sabotage, first of all? And then, more importantly, what is self sabotage? Because that's what we're going to be talking about today. I have got some quotes here from verywellmind.com that they had some good things. So, I just wanted to read it to you. Self-sabotaging in relationships involve engaging in behaviors, either consciously or unconsciously. I'm just going to tell you most of the time they're unconscious, that lead to the end of a relationship. This might involve pushing the other person away or finding reasons to get out of the relationship. Such behavior often stems from trust issues, past experiences, and poor relationship skills. Who feels seen already? Who just said shit? You meet somebody new and happily date for a little while. The connection is great. There's chemistry. The sex is fun. You start spending more and more time together and begin considering becoming a couple. That is not the order I would tell you to do everything, but this is an article. But then you stop replying to their texts right away, or you cancel dates, or you avoid talking about taking things to the next level. There's other ways that this shows up, but those are just the ones that they're talking about right now. Your partner may express frustration, disappointment, or even anger about your behavior. And then not long after, either you break up with them or they break up with you. Now, does this sound like something that happens to you? If so, you might be self-sabotaging your relationships. One of the main reasons of why people sabotage their relationships is fear of intimacy. It just is. A lot of us, and literally I'm swirling this in my head as I say it, we don't grow up with deep intimacy. So if we had parents who honestly weren't that concerned about our lives and our happiness and our joy and just our problems, my mom and I had a really tough conversation recently about how her parents never told her that they loved her. She's like, I knew they loved me, but that shit, it matters, man. And they also didn't hug her. So it was very hard for her to create that kind of connection with myself and Heather, my sister. And it's something that we're still figuring out. And I see it happening also in Danny's relationship with his family. A lot of time, there's not a deep connectedness or a deep intimacy, even if they're family. When we're afraid of intimacy and when we fear emotional or physical closeness with other people, we sabotage. Now, as a reminder, and they're reminding us here too, everybody wants and needs intimacy. We all want to be known by at least one person. We all want to be seen and heard by at least one person in our life. If you don't feel like you have that, that's where loneliness comes from. I feel very lucky, but I always had a handful of friends, like at least 2 or 3, who really knew me. All of me, the whole me, the good, the bads, the in-betweens, and the uglies. And there was uglies, for sure. I've behaved poorly. I've talked about that many times on this podcast. We all want and need intimacy. But in people with certain experiences, intimacy may be linked to negative rather than positive experiences, leading to a push and pull type behavior. By the way, that's also called power struggle. And that culminates in a relationship breakup or avoidance. Other reasons why we might be self-sabotaging: fear of getting hurt or abandoned, trust issues that are often linked to past negative experiences. That could be relationships, that even could be a high school crush, excessively high or even unrealistic expectations. I see that happening a lot. I'm not going to lie, a lot. Poor self-worth. We know I love to talk about that. If you inherently, deep down, whether you even know it, but some of your actions usually can tell it, believe that you are not worthy of great love, of a great relationship, of someone truly choosing you, you will sabotage. And then the biggest one, boop, 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 lack of relationship skills. I didn't write that. They wrote it. They're backing my stuff up. How this shows up: you're always looking for an exit. You're always noticing other people maybe, or maybe this one's better than what I've got. You always have one foot possibly out the door in case this one doesn't work out. Serial dating. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that you go from relationship to relationship to relationship without ever stopping and finding out what's actually going on, why things are working, why they're not. And what happens is it gets real easy to go, oh, I found this other relationship, so everything must be okay. It was just the wrong person. No, if you have relationships that are consistently not working and you're looking for your next partner as you're getting out, this is a very common thing where somebody starts talking to somebody else, so they have that lined up when they're ready to go. That is sabotage. Now, I like a couple of thoughts here. This is from Mind Body Green. If you're worried your partner may not like you enough, you might subconsciously act or push them away so you don't have to feel the sting of rejection. Stirring up relationship drama can also be a way to keep your partner interested. Individuals may not feel that they can get better, so they take any affection, attention, or connection, negative or positive. All of those are sabotage. And on the other side of the spectrum, some individuals might fear commitment due to what that relationship will mean for their independence, leading them to self-sabotage the relationship in order to keep their distance and maintain a sense of freedom. What we basically are looking at right there is number one, what I described is the anxious attachment style. And the second one here, the fear of commitment due to what the relationship will mean for their independence, is the avoidant attachment style, right? It all ties into that shit. So I have created 10 anti-sabotage guidelines for having awesome relationships. Now, this is not only for love relationships, this is for all relationships. Okay. So, number one, I'm going to read these as in this is a statement and you have to follow it. And then I'm going to explain it. So, the number one statement is I won't get angry at anyone for something I never told them. Woo! Somebody feel the table shake there? That's right. If you find yourself saying, shouldn't they know that by now? I shouldn't have to tell them that. If they loved me, they would know that. If they loved me more, they should be more curious and ask me questions. I guess they don't love me. I don't know why I'm mad, but that's their fault. I'm fine. Right? There's that huge joke about women is like, if your wife says she's fine, no, she's not fine. That's fucked up. That's fucked up. That's our culture. That we are so used to women in the culture not speaking their mind, not telling you what they're thinking, that it's like a joke on comics and like I meant actually like newspaper comics, not stand-up comics. But it's like an actual joke. It's a thing that we all laugh about. That is a sabotage. Here's what you do instead. You show the fuck up as who you are. Share who you are, what feels good, what doesn't, what you need. And they either respond to that or they don't. Sometimes they're nervous too. We all have lives and we all have our own shit. We have jobs. Some people have kids, pets, hobbies, aging parents, friends, whatever. It is not their job to read your mind. It is not their job to guess what you want or need. It is not their job to figure you out because that equals love for you. That's bullshit. And that is a sabotage. And ultimately, that sabotage confirms in your brain. And that's why we keep on doing it until you change it. Until you change it. It's a sabotage so you can basically disprove that you're unlovable. And then inside your mind or to your friends or whoever will listen, you're like, another one bites the dust. Big surprise. And then you either blame yourself or you blame them or you blame both. And really, that was a sabotage. I won't get angry at anyone for something I never told them. You can't get angry that you haven't heard from them in a text if you didn't tell them you were expecting to hear from them in a text, right? If you've been seeing them for a while and you're irritated that they're not maybe showing up in the way that you want, you can't be pissed unless you tell them. And then when you tell them, you get to decide what you want to do with that information. But you're just setting this up for failure otherwise. Number 2. Ooh, I love this one. I love it so much. If I find myself assuming, I will step back and ask for clarification. If I find myself assuming, I will step back and ask for clarification. This does really tie into the first one. But what I see us do a lot when we are scared in dating, when we're nervous, we start making assumptions. When we don't have the information, we fill in the gaps. But those assumptions may or may not be true. And if we're making decisions based on assumptions rather than actual information, we have a problem. Okay, I've got some examples here. I haven't heard from them today. Clearly, they don't like me as much as I thought, or they lost interest, or they met someone else, or they met somebody else who is fill in the blank better than me, younger than me, slimmer than me, has a better job than me, more successful than me, whatever it is. And I'm looking at my anxious people because when you are anxious, you start filling in the gaps and making up your own stories. This didn't happen in the way that I thought it would. So that must mean this, instead of just asking them, right? If you're making an assumption and it's creating reactions or responses that are coming out of fear, you are sabotaging. Ooh, I am ready for this next example, and you're not going to love it. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I hear this all the time about first dates. They didn't ask me any questions. Obviously, they're selfish or not actually interested in me. Nope. That, my friends, is a sabotage. Because just a reminder, people get nervous. Everybody is excited and nervous on first dates. And when we're nervous, what do we sometimes do? We talk about ourselves. We highlight things that we're good at or that we love or our accomplishments because we want to feel worthy. But what can also happen is we end up talking about ourselves unknowingly the whole time. Here is the anti-sabotage way to deal with that. If you're on a date and somebody's talking about themselves the whole time, don't make the assumption that they're a jerk. They're probably just nervous. And when there's a space in the conversation for a second, you say, "It has been amazing getting to know about you. Would you like to know more about me?" That's it. See that? That was like 2 sentences. Now, what that's going to do is that's very gently and kindly because you don't know this person and they're nervous, letting them know, "Hey, hi, I'm over here too. And I see you and I know you're nervous. And you're coming off as that you don't want to get to know me," which I think is probably not true. And it's also allows them to pivot and then turn and ask you questions. Now, if they don't do that, if they keep talking about themselves, you have all the information you need about where they are right now in their dating and healing journey. Because if they only talk about themselves, that's probably not a person who's ready for a relationship. But we're going to give people the benefit of the doubt that they're also scared, that they're also nervous, and not make assumptions that may not be true. Because that simple statement of, "It's been great getting to know you. Would you like to know more about me?" is teaching people how to treat you. It's setting a sweet and tender boundary right away. And that's how we date with intention to get what we want. This is from the Harley therapy site, and I really liked it. And I'll have all of these in the show notes. Assuming you know how someone else thinks and feels never works because you are seeing things from your unique perspective and value system, which are rarely the same as the other person's. While you can know the facts about a situation or someone's actions that you have observed, a person's feelings and thoughts are only available to you if you ask them. And this is a big part about it, they must trust you enough to tell you the truth. You have to build that trust. Secure relationships are built. Now, you may meet somebody who's done more work than others, who can show up, who can talk, who can have conversations, all of those things. But ultimately, all of those things that you want are from building a secure relationship. Somebody's not just going to show up and be incredible for you without knowing you well enough and trusting you. And guess who the people are who go above and beyond and do that without knowing you enough to trust you? That would be the love bombers and narcissists. If you're like, "This is too good to be true," it probably is. If somebody is doing all of these things or saying all of these things after knowing you for a couple of weeks or even a month, they are more tied to the stories than they are to the facts. Next, number 3, I will not treat my friendships and relationships like a transaction or keep score. Honestly, this catches me and Danny is the one who calls me out on it, which yay for healthy relationships when your husband starts to know as much as you do and then starts calling your ass out on things. That's fun. But if you think you're going to have a positive relationship with nobody ever critiquing or telling you you have something to work on, you're wrong. So just that. So what does that mean? I will not treat my friendships and relationships like a transaction or keep score. I'm going to describe this. You are watching what they do for you. And most of the time, when we are treating things like a transaction or keeping score, you are only doing things because you want them to do them for you, right? You're taking a tally, who texted last, who reached out first, who did what and when, who paid for this, who paid for that. And most importantly, a lot of us are also keeping score of who is quote unquote winning. By the way, nobody's winning here by being the most sacrificial one. I'm the one who did this for you. I'm the one that when you were sick, brought you a care package and chicken noodle soup. And when I got sick, you didn't. Now, I can understand how that feels confusing. I can understand how almost everything in life we are taught is like a transaction. I pay you and you do this service for me. Or I pay you and you now give me this product. We live in a very transactional society, but healthy relationships don't keep score. You show up for yourself. You show up for this relationship. You do what's right by you and the relationship. If there's a time that you are feeling unseen or unappreciated, or like you're doing too much, which sometimes, by the way, is just going to happen. I have been in and out of depression forever. I have had depression episodes since Danny and I have been together. There have been more than a couple of times where he's had to pick up the slack in our relationship, in our house, in our cleaning, in our cooking. You don't know what's going to happen. And if you think it's going to be equal all the time, then that's not true. So if you're constantly looking at who did what and what people owe you, then you are basically having transactional love, and that's not love. I should say you're having a transactional relationship or attachment, but you're not going to get long-lasting love from that. Now, this is from another article in Mind Body Green about keeping score in relationships. And it says, keeping score is a me-centered way of operating by which you're elevating your role in the relationship to a place of superiority. And if you're up, then your partner only has one place to land, and that's down in the swampy, stagnant pond of not enough. He doesn't love me enough. She doesn't care enough. I don't love him enough, or whatever. The not enough mindset will quickly spiral into your seeing your relationship through the glass half empty lens, which will then negatively impact how you feel about your partner. This is usually because you're a people pleaser who learned you have to act or do certain things a certain way to be loved. So then you're constantly giving and giving to win them over, which you think is love or loving gestures, but is really low-level manipulation to do things so they like you. And then you turn around and watch diligently to see what they're doing, how much they're doing, and become resentful when they don't give back in the way that you think that they should. Guess what, guys? That is sabotage. And it's just another way that we prove we are unlovable. Because then we think to ourselves, if they loved me, they'd do this for me. Shit. Sometimes people are just having a really rough time at work, so they can't show up exactly in the same way that you want for them. Now, if that's happening a lot and that's a pattern, then that's a concern. But ultimately, if we are treating our relationships as a transaction, we are just trying to win them over rather than connect to them. And I've been just talking about that a lot lately with my clients. Even what is out there about advice for dating is about how to basically win this person over to like you versus authentic and real connection that you can grow. Because if you're only putting your best foot forward, only putting the good things or the right things so that they choose you, that's not going to be forever. You're not going to want to have to keep that up. That's not real. That's not authentic. Loving connection happens and continues happening when you see a whole person, not only the best version of somebody. And if somebody is showing you only the good things, if you've been 6, 7, 8 months in or more, and you've seen no problems, I can promise you somebody's not being honest. Because even with a shit ton of therapy, even with a ton of work, we're all still going to have bad days, bad moments, and sometimes just bad parts of life. I love how we want a relationship and we're never thinking about, what if this person gets sick? What if I get sick? What happens if they lose a parent? These are real things that affect our relationships. And if we don't have a strong relationship, an unshakable relationship, we can start not bringing up love, not seeing love, not feeling loved when these times happen. Number 4, if I'm sick, tired, or lonely, I will choose self or community care instead of putting myself in situations that could hurt myself or others. That felt a little dramatic as I read that out loud, but let me explain. And I'm going to tell you a story. My younger self was a walking time bomb of emotions. And at any time, people who were in my life were on an emotional roller coaster that they didn't buy the ticket to. I would lose my shit on people. I kept people in my life that shouldn't have been there. I made super piss poor decisions. I drank a lot to blame it on something. I was a walking open wound, just reacting to everything in life. I know now that I was emotionally unsafe. I was a result of my own choices, but I blamed everybody else but myself because I was too scared to look at my own shit. But in that process, I lost friendships, I lost relationships, and I lost really fucking good people who loved me in my life because my self-awareness was zero and I had no idea how to regulate my emotions and take care of myself. So I kept making shitty choices and blaming men, blaming dating, blaming whatever I could, rather than taking a look at myself and saying, being around me long term is unsafe. Jan, aka my mom, one of the best things that she ever said, and I quote it regularly, is don't make any big decisions if you are tired, sick, or hungry. And she's right. She's totally right. I would not say that Jan had a lot of Janisms, but she is totally right. And what I see happen, because I'm going to bring this around to another direction here, is that when we're lonely, we sometimes reach out to people who we know we're not interested in just to get attention. When we're lonely, we sometimes go back to situations or people that are not healthy, and we're either hurting ourselves or we're hurting them. When we are scared of being alone, when our anxious attachment particularly starts flaring up, we will do anything to not feel the way that we feel. And ultimately, that is a sabotage, right? Because all of those decisions are based on fear. And I'll say it again. What starts in fear, you're going to have a really hard time turning that into love. If we are tired or sick or lonely, turn on your favorite movie, text a good friend, choose self-care or choose community care, but don't go on that date you don't want to go on. Don't go out with a friend when you're tired and you're just going to be a shitty friend to be with. And if this becomes more of a constant, do you need to get yourself in therapy? Do you need to get yourself on antidepressants? What can you do? Is there yoga, Reiki? There's so many things that can help us feel better in our headspace and in our bodies. But let me tell you what feels worse: leading somebody on that you shouldn't be, reaching out to somebody who you know is not healthy for you, going back again and again to a situation that's terrible because you just don't want to be stuck alone with your feelings. It's a sabotage. We have to be okay alone. We have to be okay and comfortable in our headspace, or otherwise we'll be constantly fighting it. And if you think that you can be in a relationship and ignore your thoughts for the whole entire time, come on. If we are burned out, if we are tired, if we just feel uneasy in our lives or uncomfortable in our lives right now, it's okay to pause. Now, don't pause forever, but please stop trying to connect with people. Stop attaching to people when you're in such a tough place in your life. Because the type of people who are going to be attracted to you when you're in that space are not healthy people. And the people we're going to be attracted to in that headspace are probably not going to be healthy people either. When we are tired, when we are burned out on life, when we are burned out on dating, when we're starting to question if there's anybody out there for us that's good or healthy or safe, the best anti-sabotage is to rest, is to take what I love to call a hiatus, or I've heard it's called a heart sabbatical. But one of the best ways to figure out how to do relationships better is to notice ourselves and when we need to pause, when we need to rest, when we need to ask for help or support. Number 5. I love this one. I will have my relationships out loud and in real life, not in my head. I'm going to say that one again. I will have my relationships out loud and in real life, not in my head. Oh no. Who's feeling seen right now? You may have no idea what I'm talking about, so let me explain. Technology is fucking us, not in the good way with vibrators. It's allowing us to make up full stories of people, who they are, who we think that they are, just from a few texts and conversations or from even their profiles. We read through this profile and you're like, oh, wow, this person's a great match for me. You don't know that. You don't even know if what they wrote is true. And technology and dating apps and all of this is just feeding that, right? I have heard people who are devastated by something not working out with someone that they really liked and had met twice. Twice. Devastated. You've known that person for approximately a handful of hours. That's not real. But that's because we start having the relationships in our head. We have conversations with them or about them in our head. We don't ask them questions or clarify. Instead, we just try to think it through. That's not how relationships work. Relationships are with a whole nother human, and it has to be constantly interactive. You have to be present. I was talking to one of my clients recently, and one of the big takeaways from why her last relationship didn't work is I'm like, honey, you were just distracted. Whether it be life or your job or whatever, on some level, these relationships can't be good and healthy if you can't be present, if you can't spend actual time with somebody, if you can't spend time where you are looking at them, conversing with them, spending real time in the moment with them. If you're working 60, 70, 80 hours a week, I can promise you, you may not be emotionally unavailable, but you're physically unavailable. If you can't be there with them in their space and with your phone fucking away and actually looking at them, making eye contact with them. Sometimes Danny and I just hug for a minute or so because the days were hard. And by the way, as you start to learn about stress, as you start to learn about processing emotions, things like that actually are how we let go, is when we can be held by somebody for 30 seconds or more. It can help process out the stress of your day. We have to stop making up stories about people. And guys, I've heard people who are freaked out or upset or devastated and they never even met the person. They just texted with them a bunch or talked to them on the phone. That's because you're not having, my guess, any of your friendships or relationships in real life. As a reminder, since there's a million true crime podcasts and documentaries out there, this person could be a serial killer or rapist. You don't fucking know. But if you've made such a fucking fairy tale of who this person is and how your relationship could be, that is, say it with me, a sabotage. Love exists in real life with two people showing up, taking care of each other, building deep intimacy and trust. Anything else is a sabotage. Don't even go by what people tell you. Most people, once again, are not that self-aware. Go by what they show you. Are they consistent? Do their words match their actions? If they say, I'm going to call you tomorrow, do they call tomorrow? And if they don't, do they text to say, hey, my day got crazy, I'll reach out on Wednesday? Life comes up. I don't expect people to be perfect, but I expect them to communicate and be consistent. And if they can't do either of those things, those are things that you need to work on or not be with that person. Love and relationships are out loud. They are in real life. And no matter how you're trying not to screw up, you're trying to be perfect, you're trying to make sure that you don't do anything wrong for them to leave, which is some level of fear, we still have to let other people into our worlds, our thoughts, our feelings, because that's where relationships are and that's where love is. In real life with the other person outside of our mind, outside of our thoughts, outside of our assumptions, outside of our expectations. All of this, the dating, the relationships, the love, get easier, feel easier when we just realize that they're on the other side. I know you want to protect yourself, and I know that you think that if you overthink every little thing that you say, every little move that you make, then you won't mess up. But then you also won't be real. Nobody needs to know your every thought. But before you decide that somebody's not interested, before you start people pleasing because you're scared that they're going to go away or you're not doing enough to earn their love, have a conversation. Ask better questions. Bring them in to your thoughts in your world in a kind and thoughtful way. Relationships are built. They are not found. Love is created, not found. Love only continues with healthy relationships. We have to stop living them just in our head. You guys, I'm going to do something. This has turned into a super duper podcast already. So I'm going to make this a part 1 so that you guys don't have a 3-hour podcast here. What do you guys think? Who here knows that they have done some of this? Who here has sabotaged things over and over again and didn't mean to? right? We don't mean to. We're not trying to push people away. We're not trying to not have love. But we're also a little scared because love and relationships can feel big and scary. I've said this to you guys before, and I'll say it again. I was set up in no way for love, for dating, for relationships, for sex. And I was even just, I think, scared of guys. I was scared of my feelings. I was scared of my attractions. I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no idea how to do it in a way that actually got the results I wanted. Most of us, I think, don't. And I think that we can be doing better. If you are ready to start doing better, if you know that or believe or have the tiniest speck of hope that there is love out there for you and you're just ready to work on it a little bit, go check out Reinventing Dating. Come join me at a $99 group workshop for Date Like You Mean It. Dig in and do some one-on-one work with me if you want to. You can even come into Madison and hang out with me for 4 days and we'll eat cheese. All things are possible, but this work is life-changing and you don't have to do it alone. Reach out to me, Kira, at reinventingdating.com, or just head on over to Reinventing Dating to learn all the things that you need to learn. I hope you know that you and your future relationship are worth that time and energy. I hope you know that. All right, guys, that's it for today. If you haven't checked out Rom-Com Rescue yet, I really encourage you to do so. They're really fun. I'm ridiculous still. Go check them out. And if you love this, subscribe, or even better, leave a review so other people can come and find this podcast and we can all get on the same page together. I'm Kira. I will see you next week with part 2. And until then, meet love halfway.